Okay, so Thomas Mann's Doctor Faustus, it's one of those books, right? It's like this massive, unconquered mountain in 20th century literature. It's dense, it's challenging, and honestly, it's profoundly unsettling. A lot of people pick it up, but not many actually make it to the summit. So instead of trying to summarize the entire epic, which would take forever, we're going to do something different. We're going to drill down into the terrifying question that's right at its core, a question Mann basically throws at us from the very first page. Now, the story itself, it's all about this fictional composer, Adrian Leverkühn, an absolute genius who, may have literally sold his soul for his art. But here's the twist. The book isn't just about him. It's actually framed as a biography, and it's written by his best friend. And this friend, he is completely, utterly terrified of the story he knows he has to tell. So everything we read, every single detail, comes to us through this narrator, a guy named Serenus Seitblom. And right from the jump, from the very first lines, he's telling us how much he dreads this. He's filled with this profound sense of unease. And that right there is the key question, isn't it? Why? Why on earth is he so scared to write about his brilliant friend? All right, so to figure that out, we're going to follow the breadcrumbs Mann leaves for us. First up, we'll look at the narrator's terrifying task. Then we'll dive into the weird childhood that shaped our composer, what I'm calling nature's dark magic. After that, we'll see the sound of genius, that first little spark. And all of that will lead us straight to the big central question. Was this a deal with the devil? Okay, first section, let's really dig into the guy telling this whole story. Our narrator, Serenus Seitblom. He's basically the camera lens for this entire book. And trust me, getting a handle on him is the key to unlocking the whole thing. And what's so interesting about Seitblom is that he is the complete opposite of the guy he's writing about. I mean, he's this classical scholar who is all about logic, humanism, and, as he puts it, healthy, harmonious order. He spent his entire life building these walls to keep out anything he considers demonic. He is, for all intents and purposes, the voice of pure reason. So that just brings us right back to the central puzzle, doesn't it? Why would this guy, a man who lives for stability and order, feel this unbelievable pressure to write about a life he thinks was literally cursed? What could possibly be forcing his hand? Well, the answer starts to unfold when we look at the really strange world that our young composer grew up in. All right, on to Adrian Leverkühn's childhood, which was not normal, not by a long shot. See, he was raised by a father who looked at the natural world and didn't see God's perfect, orderly creation. No, he saw a stage for something, well, something much, much weirder and way more unsettling. So Adrian's dad, Jonathan, he was a farmer on paper, but his real passion, that was for what he called his speculations. He'd conduct these bizarre experiments that just completely blurred the line between what you'd call science and, well, sorcery. He was obsessed with all the little deceptions and hidden tricks he saw everywhere in nature. And the examples he shows his son are just, they stick with you. He points out butterflies that pretend to be dead leaves just to survive, or others that are so toxic their bright colors are basically a giant "don't eat me" sign. He shows Adrian this incredible transparent butterfly, almost invisible, like a floating flower petal. He even does this experiment where a drop of chloroform seems to eat a bit of oil, acting like some kind of primitive little animal. And maybe the most haunting thing of all, he grew this garden of inorganic crystals that would actually bend toward the light, just like real plants do. But they were, in his own words, completely dead. So you see, these weren't lessons about the beauty and wonder of God's creation. No. This was all about nature's dark side, its ambiguity, its trickery, its totally amoral, deceptive qualities. For young Adrian, nature wasn't this peaceful, comforting thing. It was a spooky place where life and death, beauty and poison, truth and lies were all just jumbled together in a really unnerving way. And that worldview, it would haunt him his entire life, and you better believe it would show up in his music. So the big question is, how does all this weird education in the dark magic of nature, how does that connect to music? Well, Adrian's first big aha moment with music didn't happen in some grand concert hall. It came from a much more down-to-earth and totally unexpected place. Our narrator, Seitblom, he remembers this stablemate on the farm, a woman named Hannah, and he describes her as, pretty unrefined, barefoot, smelling like the barn animals she took care of. And yet, believe it or not, she was the one who first opened Adrian's eyes to the magic of how music is built. What she did was she taught the kids how to sing in a canon, which is really just a kind of musical magic trick. Here's how it works. One voice starts a simple melody. Then, a little later, a second voice comes in singing the exact same melody. Then a third one joins in, and the result is incredible. All of a sudden, from this one single simple line, you get this complex, beautiful, interwoven harmony. It's like perfect order just popping into existence out of nothing but repetition and timing. And this is the moment we really see Adrian's mind is different. While all the other kids are just, enjoying the pretty song, Zeitlom remembers Adrian letting out this quiet little laugh, a knowing laugh. And looking back on it years later, the narrator realizes what happened. The boy didn't just hear the music, he saw it. He instantly got the mathematical trick, the hidden blueprint behind the magic. It was this almost chilling, intuitive understanding of this incredibly complex system. Okay, so now we can start connecting the dots, right? You've got the narrator's deep-seated fear, you've got this childhood soaked in nature's dark illusions, and you've got a kid with this frighteningly brilliant mind. All of this leads us straight to the central idea of the entire book. Because our narrator, Zeitlom, he feels like he has to make this terrifying distinction. He basically argues that there are two types of genius in the world. On one hand, you have the good kind, the blessed, God-given genius that's pure, healthy, and creates harmony. But then he says there's another kind, a cursed genius. One that isn't a gift from heaven, but is acquired through some kind of sinful deal with the underworld. And this kind of genius, it's destructive, it's chilling, it's cold. And that right there is why Zeitlom is so petrified to tell this story. You have to understand, he loved his friend Adrian, but he eventually came to believe that his friend's unbelievable musical talent didn't come from a good place. He fears that he's writing the biography not of a blessed artist, but of a damned soul. And that task for a man like him is just an absolute horror. And so right from the beginning, Thomas Mann's novel leaves us wrestling with this really provocative idea. This isn't just about one fictional composer, you see. It's about creativity itself. Is genius always this pure, divine gift from above? Or, and this is the scary part, to create a true masterpiece, does an artist sometimes have to reach into the darkness, to touch the sick, the twisted, the forbidden? That is the deeply unsettling question that Dr. Faustus forces every single one of us to confront.